The sun rises over the open highway, playlist blasting, coffee shaking, dreams way too big for the gas tank. Somewhere between adventure and absolute idiocy, disasters already loading. Tires blow, GPS lies, and somebody mistakes a bear for a friendly dog. Welcome to the American road trip. Half vacation, half survival test, 100% chaos. Number 1, they called it the Freedom Tour. 2 friends, 1 pickup, and a confidence level unmatched by their sense of direction. Somewhere in Utah, the GPS politely said, "Turn right," and they did, straight through a barbed wire gate marked Private Ranch. No trespassing. 20 minutes later, they're crawling across dry pasture, the truck rattling like an old movie prop, when a herd of longhorn cattle starts closing in like slow-moving security guards. The driver panics, guns it, and instantly buries the rear tires in red clay up to the axles. Dust everywhere, silence, then a single cow mooing in judgment. By sunset, a rancher arrives, shaking his head. "You city boys following the devil's GPS again." The tow cost $200. The humiliation? Priceless. Moral of the story: on American backroads, recalculating usually means you just trespassed. Number 2, 3 best friends from Texas decided to see the real America, armed with beef jerky, energy drinks, and one tragically overconfident GPS. Halfway through Kansas, the app proudly announced, "You have arrived at your destination," which turned out to be a random cornfield. "Bro, maybe it's like a hidden landmark," one suggested. "Yeah," the other replied, called Farmer Joe's Disappointment. They drove in anyway, thinking the dirt road would loop back to the highway. It didn't. Instead, the car sank halfway into a muddy irrigation ditch while a very unimpressed farmer approached on a tractor. "Y'all lost?" he asked. "No, sir," the driver said. "Just sightseeing." "Uh-huh," said the farmer, pulling out a rope. "Sightsee this tow bill." By the time they got free, they'd taken more selfies with cows than with monuments, and renamed the trip Cornfield Nation Tour. Number 3, a newlywed couple set out to find themselves on a cross-country honeymoon. 2 hours in, they found a flashing low-fuel light and a husband who swore, "Relax, there's always a gas station before empty." Spoiler, there wasn't. They coasted into a desert turnout with exactly 0 cell signal and one angry bride holding the world's most judgmental iced latte. "I told you to fill up in Needles, and I told you the map said we're close to something." "Yeah, divorce court." They waited 45 minutes before a passing RV slowed down. The retired couple inside offered help and a lecture about planning ahead, Sonny. When they finally refueled, the bride made him write, "Never trust the light" on the dashboard in Sharpie. He says it's a reminder. She says it's evidence. Number 4. 2 brothers hit the Pacific Coast Highway in a convertible they borrowed from their uncle, who said, "Just don't drive it near the ocean." Naturally, the first thing they did was park 6 feet from a wave. They wanted drone shots, like those car commercials. Then a rogue swell decided to join the production. Saltwater, sand, and seaweed crashed over the hood while one brother yelled, "Dude, save the drone!" and the other screamed, "Save the car!" The car didn't start. The drone drifted away. A local surfer helped push them out and said, "Next time, leave the stunts to Hollywood." They nodded, soaked and silent, realizing they just starred in the worst car ad ever. Sponsored by regret and the Pacific Ocean. Number 5. A group of friends from Chicago decided to rough it on a cross-country drive to Colorado. They packed everything except common sense. The camping stove? Out of fuel. The tent? Missing half its poles. So they did what geniuses do. Tried to roast hot dogs over the car's tailpipe because, as one put it, it's basically fire, right? 10 minutes later, their dinner looked like melted crayons, and the car refused to start. A passing hiker asked, "You guys cooking or committing a crime?" They laughed until the tow truck arrived and the driver deadpanned, "First-time campers?" That night they ate cold chips in a motel parking lot, promising next time to bring actual fire and less imagination. Number 6. A couple from Ohio drove west in an old sedan they swore still had life left in her. By Nebraska, her was drinking oil like morning coffee. Every gas stop turned into a ritual. Pop the hood, pour a quart, pray. Then came the smell. Not the romantic campfire kind, but burnt plastic and panic. The husband said, "It's probably just the air freshener melting." It wasn't. Smoke curled from under the hood near mile marker 312, and they coasted into the nearest exit. Population maybe 12. The local mechanic took one look and said, "You folks drove here on hope and fumes." 4 hours, 2 sandwiches, and one brutally honest repair bill later, the husband quietly Googled, "cheap rental cars near me." The road trip survived, but his pride did not. Number 7. 4 college friends rented a minivan for a budget road trip from Florida to New York. The budget part disappeared on day 2 when they realized unlimited miles didn't include unlimited speeding. A trooper clocked them doing 89 and a 70, all singing off-key to Bon Jovi. When the officer asked, "You boys in a hurry?" one answered, "Just to New York, sir." Wrong move. He handed them a ticket so expensive it became the most costly souvenir of the trip. For the rest of the drive, every time someone hummed "Livin' on a Prayer," the driver groaned. "We literally are." By the time they reached Times Square, the group fund was gone, and dinner was gas station granola bars. Lesson learned: you can't outrun radar, or your friends reminding you for life. Number 8. A dad from Wisconsin decided to make memories by driving his family to the Grand Canyon instead of flying. 12 hours in, the kids had declared war in the back seat. The GPS voice had been muted for sass, and Mom was openly Googling flight prices mid-ride. Somewhere near Albuquerque, the youngest yelled, "I think the car's leaking." It wasn't the car. It was a spilled orange juice slowly soaking the luggage. Dad sighed. "We'll laugh about this one day," to which Mom replied, "We'll see." When they finally reached the canyon at sunset, everyone sat silently for 5 minutes, genuinely impressed. Then one kid said, "Can we go now?" Dad just nodded. The view was breathtaking. The patience, exhausted. Number 9. 2 roommates borrowed a friend's camper van for a long weekend in Tennessee. Neither had ever used a camper before, but how hard could it be? Very, apparently. They parked at a scenic overlook, left the fridge running, and forgot the battery-only charges while driving. By morning, dead battery, no power, no coffee. One said, "We're pioneers now." The other muttered, "Yeah, pioneers with a useless fridge full of warm milk." They finally flagged down a passing biker who jump-started them after taking a selfie and saying, "First-time van lifers." By the time they got power again, their glamping had turned into survival mode. They still post those photos online, though, with the caption, "Unplugged Weekend." Literally number 10. A couple heading to Yosemite decided to beat the crowd by driving overnight. Great idea until about 3 a.m., when both realized they'd missed the last gas station 80 miles back. The dashboard light flickered like a slow confession. "You think we'll make it?" she asked. He smiled confidently. "We'll glide downhill if we have to." 10 minutes later, the car rolled to a silent stop under a sky full of stars and coyotes. They slept sitting up wrapped in picnic blankets while trucks thundered past. At sunrise, a park ranger found them and said, "Ran out of gas, huh?" Happens every weekend. They nodded, trying to look adventurous instead of defeated. Their first photo of Yosemite? Them beside the ranger's gas can. Number 11. 2 best friends decided to drive from Seattle to Denver without planning a thing. The first night, they pulled over at what looked like a peaceful rest stop until sprinklers kicked on at 2 a.m. The tent flooded instantly, sleeping bags soaked, one friend screaming, "It's raining sideways!" They tried to move the tent but slipped in the mud like slapstick extras. By morning, their car smelled like a swamp, and their clothes looked tie-dyed in defeat. When they reached a diner for breakfast, the waitress asked, "Camping?" They just said, "Unfortunately." Nothing bonds two people faster than 2 a.m. lawn irrigation warfare. Number 12. A family from Georgia wanted to see Mount Rushmore, so Dad planned the drive himself. No GPS, just instincts. His instincts, however, led them an hour past the exit and deep into a gravel road labeled Service Access Only. Mom said, "Maybe it's the scenic route." An hour later, they were surrounded by nothing but prairie dogs and regret. When they finally turned around, Dad pretended he meant to take the historical route. The kids weren't buying it. Every trip after that, they handed him a map with arrows included written across it. The next year, they flew. Number 13. 3 friends tried to camp near Lake Tahoe during wildfire season because it looked clear enough. By midnight, the wind shifted, smoke rolled in, and their idea of roughing it turned into coughing and panic packing. They sped down a mountain road as ash fell like gray snow, arguing about who said, "We'll be fine." When they reached town, they were covered in soot and smelling like they'd spent the night in a barbecue pit. A firefighter told them, "You boys picked the wrong week to find yourselves." Lesson learned. The only thing hotter than adventure is California in August. Number 14. A young couple set out on their first trip together. Florida to Nashville, 1 car, 1 playlist, and very different music tastes. By Alabama, they'd already skipped 30 songs arguing about driving vibes. At a gas station, he left his wallet on the hood while trying to find the next perfect track. They drove 50 miles before realizing it. When they circled back, the wallet was gone, but the cashier said, "Don't worry, happens hourly." They spent the night counting quarters for motel money. By the time they hit Nashville, they weren't fighting over songs anymore, just grateful for gas. Number 15. A group of coworkers rented an RV to Team Bond. They made it exactly 1 exit before someone yelled, "Who's supposed to dump the tanks first?" Nobody knew what tanks meant. Hours later, a foul smell turned their air conditioning into a biohazard warning. One guy suggested opening all the windows. Another said, "It'll air out." It didn't. When they finally stopped at a service area, the attendant took 1 sniff and said, "You city folks." The rest of the drive was done in silence, windows down, eyes watering. The boss later called it a learning experience. The team called it the smell of leadership. Number 16. 2 college girls decided to drive from Oregon to Arizona for the desert aesthetic. Halfway through Nevada, they stopped to take photos on a long, empty highway. One left the car running, the other left her phone on the trunk. A gust of wind slammed the doors shut, with keys inside, engine humming, and a playlist still blasting Taylor Swift. "Maybe it'll unlock itself," one suggested. It didn't. After an hour of panic and sunburn, a passing trucker helped with a coat hanger and the gentle wisdom of a man who'd seen things. Next time, photos first, drama later. They thanked him and drove off. This time with every window cracked and the doors double-checked. Number 17. A dad from Michigan insisted he didn't need a roof rack. "The trunk's plenty big." 10 minutes into the trip, the family luggage was stacked like Tetris blocks and tied with 1 heroic bungee cord. Somewhere on I-90, the cord snapped. A suitcase flew into traffic, exploded open, and showered the highway with socks, shampoo, and 1 very personal diary. Cars swerved. Mom covered her face. Dad muttered, "We'll just buy new clothes." At the next rest stop, a stranger returned the diary, smiling. "Your kid's poetry's not bad." The family hasn't discussed it since. Number 18. A couple driving through Texas misread a weather alert that said hail warning as trail warning. They figured it was about hiking and kept cruising until golf ball ice started hammering the windshield. The husband yelled, "Quick, find shelter!" The wife pointed at the nearest sign, World's Largest Cowboy Hat Museum. They screeched in and spent the next 20 minutes hiding among fiberglass hats the size of bathtubs while the storm raged outside. When it ended, they bought matching souvenir hats for protection. She still tells people, "That hat saved our windshield." Number 19. 3 brothers decided to drive overnight from Montana to California to save time. By 3 a.m., the driver was seeing imaginary animals on the road and the others were snoring. He pulled into a rest stop to nap. Just for 5 minutes. 5 minutes became 3 hours. When they woke, the sunrise looked perfect until they realized they'd parked facing east, not west. They'd literally driven in the wrong direction for 50 miles before stopping. The youngest said, "Hey, at least we got a good sunrise." The eldest just groaned, "Yeah, and a new definition of lost." Number 20. A retired couple wanted to relive their honeymoon road trip down Route 66. They rented a convertible and even brought the same picnic basket from the 1970s. Halfway through Oklahoma, they stopped for lunch and discovered the basket's lid had been chewed through. A stowaway squirrel had joined the trip. It bolted across the front seat mid-sandwich, sending the car swerving onto the shoulder. "Well," the husband sighed, "guess we're feeding wildlife again." They finished lunch with the top up and the basket retired for good. She still calls it our most exciting date in decades. Number 21. A group of college grads rented a Jeep to drive through the Rocky Mountains. Spirits were high, playlists louder, and nobody noticed the check tire pressure light, glowing since mile 1. By the time they reached a mountain pass, the back tire gave out with a bang that echoed like a cannon. They pulled over surrounded by nothing but pine trees and regret. Nobody had ever changed a tire before. One guy Googled it, only to discover there was no signal. Another said, "We'll just wait for a YouTube ad to finish," forgetting no Wi-Fi. 2 hours later, a passing couple stopped and fixed it in 10 minutes flat. As they pulled away, the woman called, "Next time, bring a spare brain too." Number 22. A young couple's road trip playlist was all 80s hits until their phone overheated on the dashboard and shut off mid "Don't Stop Believin'." Now silence, heat, and highway. She said, "Maybe we should talk." He said, "We don't have to go that far." 20 minutes later, they were playing I Spy like bored kids until they spotted smoke ahead. The smoke turned out to be dust from their own overheating car. They coasted into a diner parking lot where an old man sipping coffee said, "You break down or just need pie?" They chose pie first, tow truck second. Best decision of the trip. Number 23. A dad from Kansas packed the family SUV so tight that when he opened the trunk at a rest stop, a cooler, 2 chairs, and a Frisbee launched out like confetti. "Anyone hurt?" Mom asked. "Just my pride," he muttered. They spent the next 20 minutes repacking, which somehow made it worse. Every time he slammed the hatch, it popped back open. Eventually, a stranger helped and said, "You know, most people don't travel with a Tetris challenge." That day, Dad learned the real meaning of family vacation. You pack, it bursts, you laugh, you move on. Number 24. 2 friends wanted to see the desert stars in Arizona. They picked a random dirt road to escape light pollution, parked, and laid on the hood watching the Milky Way. It was perfect, until headlights appeared in the distance. A pickup stopped, and a rancher leaned out. "You know this is my driveway, right?" They scrambled apologies while trying not to fall off the hood. He laughed. "City folks always think private land means free sky." Then he handed them a cold soda and pointed to a nearby overlook. "That one's public." They drove off grinning, humiliated but hydrated. Number 25. A guy decided to surprise his girlfriend with a spontaneous trip to Niagara Falls. He refused to book a hotel ahead, saying, "That's the adventure." Turns out adventure looks a lot like sleeping upright in a Walmart parking lot at midnight. She said, "You planned this, right?" He said, "Mostly." They brushed their teeth using bottled water and shared a bag of pretzels for dinner. The next morning, they finally found a room with a view of a dumpster. He tried to play it off. "Romantic, huh?" She replied, "Smells unforgettable." They're married now, but she still books every trip. Number 26. A mom and daughter from Minnesota were driving to a college orientation in California. Mom wanted to make it special, so she packed homemade snacks, labeled maps, and inspirational podcasts. Everything was perfect until the car's air conditioner gave up halfway through Nevada. By the next rest stop, both were red-faced, hair plastered to their necks, arguing over which rest area had better shade. A kind stranger offered ice water and said, "You'll remember this more than the college tour." He was right. When they finally reached campus, the first thing the daughter said was, "I'm majoring in air conditioning repair." Number 27. A couple from Boston decided to chase autumn colors across New England. Romantic, right? Except they forgot to check the weather. A freak rainstorm turned their leaf peeping into windshield wiper survival. They pulled over under a maple tree trying to wait it out when a branch cracked and dumped freezing water straight through the open sunroof. The husband whispered, "Still romantic?" She said, "Sure, if pneumonia counts." They drove the rest of the way wrapped in beach towels and laughing so hard they nearly missed the exit. The photos were a mess, but every time it rains, they still call it our leaf spa day. Number 28. Three friends heading for Las Vegas didn't realize how empty the desert could be. They passed a gas station, decided to wait for the next one. There wasn't a next one. When the fuel light came on, they rolled the windows down and turned off the AC to save power. It didn't help. Eventually, they coasted into a roadside diner shaped like a giant chili pepper. Inside, the owner said, "You're the third car today." He sold them a gallon of gas for $15 and a story they'll never stop telling. They still joke that the chili pepper saved their friendship and their air conditioning budget. Number 29. A newly retired couple decided to drive Route 1 from Maine to Key West. They made it halfway before realizing they'd left their suitcase, with all their clothes, sitting on the driveway back home. "We've got each other," she said. "And 3 outfits," he added. They bought t-shirts from every gift shop on the way, turning the mistake into a wardrobe collection. By the time they reached Florida, they looked like walking postcards. Now, every vacation, they pack early and double-check twice, but still wear those shirts proudly. Boston, Myrtle Beach, Jacksonville, brought to you by forgetfulness. Number 30. 4 coworkers decided to save money and bond by driving cross-country to a business conference in Denver. The office tech guy volunteered to handle navigation. "I downloaded offline maps just in case," he bragged. Everyone nodded, impressed. For the first few hours, everything went smooth. Podcasts, road snacks, and endless cornfields. But somewhere in western Iowa, the highway signs stopped matching the screen. "Are we still on the right road?" the boss asked. The tech guy frowned. "Yeah, I think so. It just says we're near, Oslo." "Oslo, Iowa?" someone guessed. He zoomed in. The map showed blue coastline, snow-capped mountains, and something labeled fjord. Silence. "Dude," said the intern, "did you seriously download Norway?" They pulled over at a gas station where the cashier laughed so hard she gave them free coffee. After a few minutes of panic, they found a cell signal, downloaded the correct maps, and finally rolled into Denver, late, tired, and immortalized as office legends. The boss opened their presentation with, "Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from the lost delegation of Norway." It got a standing ovation. The tech guy never lived it down, but at least he proved one thing. He really could get Wi-Fi anywhere, just not in America. Number 31. A solo traveler from Arizona wanted the ultimate freedom trip. No itinerary, no playlists, no GPS, just him, his car, and the open road. He switched his phone to airplane mode to disconnect from the world. Unfortunately, he also disconnected from logic. 3 hours later, the fuel light came on, and the road signs started disappearing. He pulled into what looked like a gas station, only to realize it had closed down in 1998. "No problem," he said to himself. "I'll just check Google." Except Google was on airplane mode too. By the time he found a ranger station, he'd driven 50 miles off route and eaten an entire bag of trail mix out of stress. The ranger handed him a folded paper map and said, "You're about 2 wrong turns away from Mexico." He laughed weakly and promised never to disconnect that hard again. Freedom's nice, but Wi-Fi is survival. Number 32. A dad from Vermont wanted to teach his kids real camping. No phones, no GPS, no gadgets, just instinct and paper maps. He even made everyone hand over their devices before they left. The plan worked great until they tried to set up camp on a slope. "It's fine," he said confidently. "We'll be snug." By 2 a.m., gravity disagreed. Every sleeping bag had slid downhill into a pile near the cooler, and the youngest shouted, "Dad, I'm camping sideways!" Morning came, and so did the ants, because someone had left the syrup open for breakfast efficiency. The final straw? A thunderstorm that turned their rustic bonding into a wet, screaming evacuation. By the next night, they'd booked a cozy cabin with Wi-Fi, hot cocoa, and full signal bars. When Mom handed back everyone's phones, she said, "Congratulations, honey. You survived the wild of your own making number 33. Two lifelong friends drove coast to coast to see the Pacific for the first time. After 7 states, 3 flat tires, and 1 suspicious burrito, they finally reached the beach at sunset. The sky was gold, the waves perfect, the mood cinematic. "We actually did it," one said, tossing the rental car key up in triumph and watching it arc gracefully into the ocean. Silence. Just the sound of seagulls judging them. They tried everything. Wading into freezing water, using a fishing net, even offering snacks to a kid with goggles. Nothing worked. When the tow truck arrived 2 hours later, the driver took one look and said, "So, the Pacific charged an entrance fee, huh?" They both laughed, partly from embarrassment, partly because laughter was the only thing that didn't cost extra. The photo they took that night wasn't of the ocean. It was of the tide stealing their key. So the next time you hit the highway, remember, the best road trips aren't perfect. They're messy, loud, hilarious, and full of stories you'll tell for years. Usually about how everything went wrong, because every disaster becomes a memory once you make it home. If you laughed, cringed, or saw a little of yourself in these travelers, hit that subscribe button and join the ride. We've got plenty more unbelievable adventures ahead. Just keep your keys, your snacks, and maybe your sanity close by.